I'm Andrew Kappel, the host of the Leader Leverage podcast. On this show, we'll talk to revenue leaders, company executives, and entrepreneurs to hear how they unlock go-to-market leverage. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Leader Leverage podcast, where we talk with leaders and understand how they unlock go-to-market leverage. So, Brian, thanks for coming on. We've been chatting over LinkedIn for a while, and finally we're able to get connected today. So why don't you share some background on yourself, what you're building, and really maybe how you got into leadership and some of the insights you picked up.
Yeah, well, appreciate you having me. Quick background, my name's Brian Hamor. Right now, I am building a company called Buyer Experience. I didn't plan to get into leadership. I didn't really plan to be an entrepreneur. It kind of just found, like most people, I don't really plan on that stuff. I grew up, I was the youngest of four boys, athletic background, and I actually didn't even start into the business world until I was like 26. I played professional basketball in Spain for a few years. And when you dedicate yourself to like one thing for so long, which was basketball, you're really just looking for what can I be passionate about my next phase of life, and like what can I be obsessed with and find something that I love just as much as basketball. And in the early stages, I jumped right into starting a software company called Play Easy. And what I learned from that was just jumping into the fire and getting those early customers and seeing the scoreboard of like accomplishing these little goals with the team is related so much to basketball and just the sports background. So I really just tried to find that same thing. And that's what's kind of led me over to starting my own company now. Yeah.
Okay, so the sequence of you retired or you stopped playing professional basketball, and then you immediately started a software company, or you got into sales. Like, yeah, what's the sequences of over the last couple of years of what you've been up to?
Yeah. So after basketball, I did medical sales for 2 years. And after I did medical sales, I ended up getting laid off. And that's when you first have that like aha moment of, oh, wow, I'm really not in control in business as you are in sports. In sports, it's like, oh, if you want to get better at something, you go to the gym, you get a bunch of shots up. In business, you could be a great seller, but if the company's bottom line's not good, like still get laid off. That's what's where I had that aha moment, like, okay, I want to at least control my destiny. So I met with some people I knew from sports, and we started a company called Play Easy. And it was basically like a marketplace that connected people that host big sporting events with the event organizers. So instead of Googling like basketball courts Boston, now they could go on, find these facilities, connect to them, and host those events. So that was kind of what led me into entrepreneurship. So I kind of fell into it just basically on like trying to find something I was passionate about. Same thing as basketball.
Okay, and so you used a little bit of domain expertise. Maybe you had some network or connections, or you were passionate. You had a lot of experience in sports, and then you could talk to the pain point, and you laid on some technology and some logistics, and I think it was a pretty good company. And so then fast forward to what you're doing nowadays. Like you had a run in sales, and then I'm sure you noticed a pain point or an issue. So talk a little bit about that, and then let's get into the like leverage of how you get leverage in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So before I started this company, I was head of sales at a Series A startup. And what I noticed, and you'll see a lot on LinkedIn, is there's a lot of talk around like outbound and building up and getting that customer base, prospecting and building that pipeline. And when I led sales, same thing, where I was always trying to build pipeline. But then you realize when we lose deals, all companies do now is you have a drop down where you put like timing, budget, pricing. And obviously no sales rep is going to say I ran a terrible demo. So that's where I had an aha moment when I was talking to my board of like, we really don't know why we're losing deals. And as a first party, you can't really go out and find out why. So I started my company called Buyer Experience, where companies just give us all of their lost deals every quarter. We go out and we, as a third party, basically say, hey, we're a research agency. We're working with XYZ company, and would you fill out this feedback in exchange for a gift card? And we aggregate that feedback into a platform. Then we find a bunch of deals they can win back. So now companies can actually learn why they're winning and losing deals.
Okay, so it's almost a combination of service and product and delivering that back to like in a dashboard or an application that can then does it integrate into the CRM or
Yeah, no. So right now we just do it. We're early stages, right?
yeah,
So it's just
yeah,
like me and contractors. So right now it's just a CSV of deals that they give us every quarter.
yeah,
Just makes it easier from a technical point of view, and then
yeah,
also onboarding wise, they just give it to us in like an hour. So it's not
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
weeks of onboarding.
Nice and quick. Okay, so you have that, and so you had the conversation with the board. Did the board say, "Hey, yeah, this is a huge problem. Go solve this"? Did you try to solve it yourself? Like, yeah, like how did that conversation lead to what you're doing?
Yeah, so I didn't really talk to the board about it. The board is where I had the aha moment because when you're reporting to the board, they're like, "Hey, why are we losing deals?" And we
Yeah,
just basically have like a bar chart that
yeah,
shows pricing, timeline, budget, all that stuff. And then when they follow up and ask like qualitatively why, and you can't really answer that, that's when you're like, wait, do other people have this problem? And that's where I started to really think about it. Is like, wait, we spent all this money to build pipeline. 90% of deals don't close. And a lot of these SMB mid-market companies don't know why. And then once I started to run some interviews, I started to realize this pain point was bigger than I thought. And that's kind of what gave me the aha moment to start building towards it, which I put money aside for a year, bootstrapped it. Took about 6 to 9 months to really get off the ground, ran like over 50 customer interviews, just basically trying to get people's time, learn about their pain points, and finally got the first few customers and then just going from there, trying to build momentum.
nice. So when you're looking back at your background in your like across your career, maybe there's patterns or maybe there's differences when you're doing basketball versus medical device versus running a company. How do you get leverage? Like, how do you get an unfair advantage in what you're doing?
Uh, Leverage is so I think early on a lot of people don't have leverage because when you're early on you're doing everything slow, you're by yourself, so you have no leverage. And when I think about gaining leverage, it starts with the foundation of like, do you have a whatever you're selling, do you have a great product, do people want to buy it? So like once you have the foundation of like great product, people want to buy it, good messaging, that's when you can start thinking about actual leverage, which I think falls in three things, which is like skills, process, and then tools.
Hmm.
Because if you have two sales reps who make 100 calls and one books 5 meetings and one books one is 5 times more leverage
Yeah.
because they have better skills than the other sales rep. So in terms of gaining leverage, it really just comes down to, are you working on your skills, or do you have the right process in place? And then once you have the process in place, what are the manual things that you can then duplicate or 5x or 10x with AI or any tools you can add?
Nice. So it's and follow up question, and this might not be a clear cut answer, but do you think it's skills or process first?
I think it has to be skills because a process without skills wouldn't work.
Yeah, yeah. You can have the right process, but if you don't have the right personnel, the right mindset, the right skill set, then unfortunately it's not going to work. It all comes down to people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's probably the biggest mistake companies make is the biggest thing is scale, automation, but
Hiring, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right.
Just getting folks into the seats, and you realize, yeah, I've made a lot of hiring mistakes, and it's so much comes down to the personnel because you want people that can be successful without a process or without tools, but are open to coaching. That you layer on that coaching, you can really make them better.
Yeah, 100%. You nailed it.
Nice. All right, so something here, and this again is open ended across your diverse experience. Biggest leadership loss or lesson that you picked up?
The biggest leadership loss was everyone who hasn't hired before thinks they'd be good at hiring until you hire. I thought watching my company grow when I was a sales rep and them hiring, I was like, I'm not sure if that's the right fit. I would hire this persona. And then finally become a leader. You have these filters you look for. They check all the boxes. You hire someone, and still within like 90 days, you're like, this might not be the right fit. And you're really trying to reverse engineer like why. And I think my biggest mistake was not having a more defined, clear role of the person I wanted to hire. I don't think a lot of times you look at the resume, but like the person and really getting those personality traits, which are in my mind, especially at a startup. This is what I'm talking about is mostly a startup, but like you need someone with competitive stamina because when you hire early stage, it's tough. People always think it's like a nice startup, having fun every day, a lot of boring stuff, monotonous stuff, things that take a week to figure out. And you need to be able to go through those highs and lows and like still want to show up to work and still go through the mission and still be able to change when the vision changes, still be able to show up. So I've seen competitive stamina be a huge one. Another one is like organizational agility when you're hiring, of like, can you adapt to different roles? Because when you're a startup, it's so hard to, you're not going to have a defined role. You're going to have to wear like 5 hats, help someone. You might not have a resource. You might need to create something by yourself. Like you need to be able to wear different hats. So I think that's one of the biggest things too. And the last one is intangible DNA, which is like the soft skills. So like you as a person, are you a good communicator? Are you dependable? Do you show up on time? And I think those are some of the main things that I've realized from mishires is just getting a clear understanding of what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, it all comes down to people. So, Brian, outside of what you're building right now by your experience, what do you do for fun? Any hobbies and any things that aren't directly related to business and startup, but that you do and you get a lot out of?
I'm super boring, by the way, super boring. So hobbies wise, I work out, hang out with my wife, hang out with my dog, and to me, business is fun. So people always say like, "Oh, work-life balance," but mine is very much integrated because I think business is fun. Like I've started a service business locally a couple of years ago. That's fun operating. Any great hobbies? No, not lately. Just those three.
Yeah, you got to stay focused because time and resources are limited. So the startup is the hobby and it's also the work. So you
For now.
gotta put it in, put in the inputs at this point for sure. Cool. Ryan, who inspires you?
One name that comes to mind, I think he's pretty popular now on Instagram, but it's Jesse Itzler.
Yeah.
I love his stuff because he's dabbled in so many different things. Like he started like a pickle brand, he started like a running club, a private jet company. So I think a lot of times people always think they need to stay in one lane. Like I need to master this one thing, but he's someone who just listening to him is just like, oh, I think this is interesting, or I think this is fun. I'm curious about this, and I'm just going to go in that direction because I'm having fun. It's inspiring to listen to because you really don't think it's possible. But then once you hear someone talk about it and be successful in it, that's what gives you energy of like, oh, okay, that's inspiring. I can go achieve that.
Awesome. Yeah, I have the big ass calendar on my wall right here. So definitely agree with that one on Jesse Itzler. And maybe you get into running. You might want to do a half marathon or a full marathon. He's big into that too.
Yeah, I've done one half by myself. Didn't actually sign up. I just went out and ran one, but I should definitely sign up for something.
Oh, you gotta the adrenaline of being out there with the group. It pushes you a lot. So I bet I'd recommend that for you.
Nice. Yeah, 100% gotta do that.
All right. Well, yeah, appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we'll point folks to what you're doing and where they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leader Leverage Podcast. If you'd like to connect or learn more, you can find me on LinkedIn at Andrew Kappel, or you can check out and subscribe at leaderlev.com. That's www.leaderlev.com.